Yo, this is Kero shouting out Soompi.com, your premier source for all news, Asian and whatnot.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's David Fung from Making in the Motherland at Soompi.com, and I'm here with Korean-American artist Kero.
What's up, man?
Right there. For the audience out there who may not be familiar with you, can you just give a brief introduction of yourself?
Yeah, my name's Kero again, from San Francisco, and started making music in around 2005, and just been DJing, making music, performing, and started a small indie label as well.
You've been doing music for quite some time now, right? But now recently, it's been really being caught on. You recently just did a world tour. So first, tell us about why do you think it's finally started to catch on now, and then also tell us about the world tour.
Yeah, I think definitely the whole internet thing has helped a lot. Originally for me, especially my career kind of started in Japan, ironically. It kind of blew up out there in some ways in the underground scene, and then it kind of came back. But yeah, just this recent tour that I went on in 2009 with Epik High, it was kind of like, we knew it was going to be dope and we knew it was going to be big, but we didn't know it was going to be like that. Mm-hmm. And pretty much the level of just hype and exposure and just networking and connections that came out of that was just phenomenal. So since then, I think that snowball has just been rolling, and again, it's like I'm connecting with my Asian fans more than ever, and because of that, I feel like there's definitely kind of that fire that multiplies, because we Asians are just everywhere. So.
One thing that makes you unique as an artist is that you produce everything yourself, right? And
pretty much.
And tell us a little bit about that, because I think that's definitely noteworthy.
Yeah, it started out as I needed a producer to work on my stuff, but I couldn't really find one, especially in the area that I grew up. There just weren't that many people doing that. So I kind of learned myself, man. Back then there wasn't any YouTube or anything. I just kind of learned from, a little bit of, the internet research that I could find. And I just bought a sampler. And, since then I've been making my own music. I produce pretty much 90% of my albums, with a few guest producers here and there.
What kind of advice would you have for a lot of aspiring artists that are trying to do the same thing, that are sort of like that all-in-one package?
I feel like that already is a great start, because I feel like nowadays you kind of need to do a bit of everything, you can't just, rap and not have a little business sense, or, know a little bit about the production process.
A lot of people would like to have their own record label. Like you said earlier, you have your own indie label.
Yeah.
So what's one thing that you could tell us about that someone from the outside looking in wouldn't know?
Don't do it. That's what I'm gonna say. For real, it's just, unless you have to, because it's one of those things where I feel like now, for me, I would only want to do it if I had to, and that's kind of why I did it. I didn't really have another label option. I just kind of had these opportunities that came on the table, and if I were to exercise those opportunities, I needed a label, and that's why I did it. Not because I felt like I could make money from it or whatever, because honestly, in this day and age, right now as we speak, good luck, it's definitely not easy. So yeah, I feel like if you do get to that point where you want to, like I said, I suggest, knowing how to, do accounting and do business and maybe know about production. I feel like having all those different skill sets are going to be crucial.
Talking a little bit about your family background, you grew up in a traditional Korean family.
Yeah.
And I think that's a struggle that a lot of kids out there can relate to, especially ones that are interested in music or pursuing a sort of a non-conventional career. Can you tell us a little bit about that, and what advice would you have for those kids?
Yeah, I feel like with my parents, I definitely give it up to them because they were understanding to some degree. But at the same time, it was just kind of they didn't really understand. At that time, you can't come home and be like, yeah, I'm gonna be a rapper. To Korean parents, that's just ridiculous. And it was just kind of one of those things where eventually, when it hit the Korean news or whatever and came back to them, is when they're like, oh, okay, I think I understand. So, as far as advice, I would say, get your first piece of news published in the, something like Asian or Korean newspaper or something like that, and have that come back to your parents if you want their support right away.
You grew up in a traditional Asian household. You you ended up graduating from college, and then you entered the corporate world.
Right.
And now you're in music.
Yeah.
Right. So tell us a little bit about that journey and what that all.
So for me, it was like, I actually grew up listening and being an avid fan of hip hop, and I tried every single thing, like breakdancing, graffiti, like rhyming, just everything under the umbrella of hip hop. And at the same time, it's like being a musician, being a rapper, wasn't really realistic to me. So I went to college, did my thing, ended up in the corporate world, working for like big companies, and eventually ended up doing web design as a career. And it was a really tough call because things were very stable actually for me at that point. It was like I had a 9 to 5. I knew when income was coming in, which is rare in the music field sometimes. And I just pretty much had to decide whether I'm going to put in my 2 weeks and just go for this music thing full time. And I did it.
Talking about working with Epik High, they're probably the hottest rap group, not only in Korea but all of Asia right now. Definitely the hottest, most popular Asian artist in America.
Yeah.
And can you talk to us a little bit about what's your experience like working with them?
Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, like when I started finding out more about him and just like really delving into the discography, like I started realizing, man, like these are really inspirational cats. Not just because they're Asian or Korean or whatever, but just as musicians in general. Like I feel like at the point where I started like listening to their stuff, I was kind of in a lull, like in a kind of down point. I wasn't really interested in too much hip hop, and that's one of the groups where when I listened to it, I was like, man, this is like definitely inspiring. They're bridging the gap between underground and mainstream, sort of like, to me, they're like the Asian Kanye West, in a lot of ways. And so, yeah, like it's just been dope, like just being inspired by their music and just their personalities as well. Like they're really good folks, like they're cool cats, very humble.
Do you plan on working with any other Asian American artists coming up?
Well, definitely, like aside from the Map the Soul and MYK, actually, we've been talking, we've been kind of thinking about working on some stuff together. I mean, I'm always on YouTube looking around, man. So when there's downtime, like I might find someone, I might find you, and if you're down, we can make something happen.
You have a show on May 30th coming up in Seattle.
Yeah.
But it's a special show because Jay Park is doing that. And can you talk to us a little bit about what you know about him or the whole situation and this whole phenomenon that's sort of taken over the internet?
I just more recently found out about him ever since the show kind of started coming together. And I'm definitely excited about the show because I've seen some of his dancing, and dude's really talented. So yeah, we're gonna rock it together. It's gonna be huge, and it's just gonna be a good energy, I think, overall, because there's gonna be a lot of talent in the house, I feel like. I mean, I just heard a lot of different things, like he's working with Teddy Riley, working with Snoop, working with Dumb. I mean, I just want to shout out all the cats out there checking for my stuff and supporting all the Asian kids out there. Kinetic World is coming out June 15th, and yeah, big shouts out to Soompi.